Our next guest sounds more like James Bond than a congressman. He's a freshman Republican Congressman Michael Grimm, who spent years working as an FBI agent deep undercover. We went to his office on Capitol Hill. Congressman, nice to see you, sir.
Great to see you.
It wasn't easy to find your office, by the way.
Well, that's because it's so exclusive here on the 5th floor. We only have certain elevators that come to the 5th floor.
And I guess it's in part because you're a first-year member of Congress. You don't get
Yes.
your first pick of offices.
That's absolutely true.
But it's lovely. It's very nice.
Thank you so much.
All right, you're getting some heat over health care. Your position on voting for or against the repeal bill?
For the repeal.
Why?
100% for the repeal. There's a myriad of reasons. When you look at the bill, first of all, the general public doesn't even know that the CBO scores are not accurate, because the CBO can only score the information that they have. It doesn't talk about the $115 billion in discretionary funds that it costs to implement this health care. It doesn't talk about the fact that it's 10 years of taxes for 6 years of services. It doesn't talk about the double counting of Medicare, the double counting of Social Security. All of these things people don't know about. And when you add all that up, it is going to be an economy-crushing, job-killing legislation. The last thing some of these small business owners need, where they're barely keeping their doors open now, is another mandate. And what they'll do is they'll just go out of business, and that's definitely not the answer. We need to create jobs and strengthen our economy, not take away from seniors their Medicare Advantage, and that's what this does. To
be the cynic, the way that you talk about the way they score these bills, that's Washington, it's Congress. Welcome to Congress.
Well, you know what? That's unacceptable. That's the reason I'm here, actually. The American people are fed up with the way Washington works. And that's why I'm saying it's not a Democratic issue or a Republican issue. Washington's broken. And I think both sides of the aisle recognize that. And that's why the American people have spoken so loud. They are frustrated. They are disappointed with the direction that Washington has gone. It's broken. And Washington, as usual, needs to stop. And that's exactly why I'm here, and that's exactly what I intend to do.
Which is sort of interesting. My next question leads into sort of what you're talking about, is that many members of Congress come here and they are corrupted by the process. Well, everybody comes here with good heart and good mind, but then they see how things work and they get corrupted. You have a history going back in the area of corruption. Not that you're corrupt, but you're former FBI.
Yes, that's true.
And went undercover.
Deep undercover, yes.
Tell me what you did.
Well, I did a myriad of things, but I guess my most notable case, I went deep undercover on Wall Street. I was the first and only FBI agent to successfully infiltrate Wall Street. And my cover, I pretended to be a hedge fund manager. So it was very interesting. I infiltrated a small currency firm. I was laundering a little bit of money, and I was manipulating stocks and doing false currency trades, all within this role as a hedge fund manager, and it was incredible.
So did you live with the appearance of living very wealthy and like have a car outside waiting for you every day, and actually sort of be what we think of as a hedge fund manager?
Yes, without the driver. I did. I had a Mercedes and a nice apartment, and we lived the lifestyle that a stockbroker would have, or a fund manager. The downside was you could never really enjoy it, because you're on almost 24 hours a day, and everything you say. I was wearing a body recorder, most of the day. I made over 2,000 hours of recordings just on my person alone. That doesn't include the recordings we made in my office and elsewhere. But you have to remember, when you're undercover, if you say one wrong thing, you could ruin a case that took a year, 2 years to build. That's a lot of pressure, so I'm used to handling the pressure.
How long were you undercover?
Altogether close to 6 years, 5.5 years.
And you never slipped or said anything to your colleagues who you're working with?
By the grace of God, no, I didn't.
Not once?
Not once.
Were you ever tempted to sort of pull someone aside and say, I'm not really who you think I am?
No. To be honest with you, I think to give credit where it's due, the United States Attorney's Office is very involved in undercover cases, and the FBI have very high standards. People think that the FBI goes out with this big net and whoever gets caught up in it, but that's not really how it works. We do a tremendous amount of investigating before we're out there as an undercover meeting with most of these targets. So we know the crimes they've committed in advance. We know what they're already doing. So there were very few people that I had to worry, very, very few, that they were possibly not really bad guys and they were considering doing something wrong. And you give them the option. I mean, there were those that you laid it out. This is what we're going to do. We're going to steal money from our clients. Are you in or you out?
Was it that overt?
Yes. Once you're in. Don't get me wrong, that doesn't happen day one.
Right.
That's 8 months of ingratiating yourself, or a year of ingratiating yourself with a group of individuals that you become very close. When you're deep undercover, you're living that life. I went to christenings. I went to family functions at their house. I was considered one of their closest friends for some of these people. So you get that close that, yes, once you're that close, you sit down and you talk about how much we are going to divvy up from the scam and from stealing. And they would brag about the old people that didn't know any better. They could take their money and spend it on the strip club, or on a new car, or on their mortgage. This is the type of evidence we got. That's why we had a 100% conviction rate. The evidence was overwhelming.
I can't imagine what it's like, though, to go into an environment undercover, and you've got to investigate, and you know that these people are going to go down, and then 2 or 3 years later show up in the courtroom, and people who you had like rubbed shoulders with, working with, finally you lock eyes.
Well, I'll do one better. The night that Operation Wooden Nickel was taken down, I was arrested with all of the bad guys.
You were arrested?
I was arrested. I was taken into custody. I was handcuffed, fingerprinted, photographed, and sat for approximately 4.5 hours during this whole processing system. I was the lead investigator sat down and interviewed me. So I was interviewed.
And this was a setup, though. This was not. This was totally planned.
This was all planned.
Okay.
And at the very end, we're about to load the bus to go to jail for the night, because the takedown was at night, so there was no going to the judge until the morning. And right before they got on the bus, the case agent stood up and said, well, we've just informed you of the amount of evidence we've had, and this and that and the other thing, but the one thing we didn't tell you is that we had an undercover for the last 2 years working with you. Mikey Suits is Special Agent Michael Grimm. And I stood up and they took my handcuffs off. And if you could have seen their faces, it was something out of a movie. There were some that if looks could kill, I'd be dead 20 times over. Others, just complete shock and disbelief. So it was an unbelievable experience.
Do you think all the members of Congress here, your new colleagues, feel safe and secure with you, that you're not wired?
Yeah, I think they do.
You think they do? Okay, good.
They do.
Anyway, thank you very much, and we look forward to watching your career, and welcome to Washington.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Now, there's so much more of our interview with Congressman Grimm, so check out the entire interview on GretaWire.com. Next,